What's up, riders? Old Man Ronin here. Welcome back to the channel. Guess what? It's time for another top 5. The top 5 things I love about the Royal Enfield Himalayan. You know, the other videos I'd made, and you'll see them here, I'm going to put them up in the corner, the different ones, we'll cycle through them. The Road King, the Deluxe, the Sportster 1200, and the Iron 883, to name, well, pretty much all of them, except for the Dyna. Of course, I'm just getting ready to start tearing that one down, so it's going to be a little bit before I do a top 5 reasons I love the Dyna. However, I haven't done a top 5 reasons why I love the Royal Enfield Himalayan. And the reason for that was I wanted to get well over 1,000 miles on the motorcycle before I ever did a, you know, I don't want to say a review, because I'm really not going to do a small review. I'm going to wait till long term. I mentioned in a couple other videos that I did that I'm going to wait till after I get back from the Trans-America Trail to give you a long-term review or a one-year review. But what I'm getting at is I want to give you a basic synopsis of the top 5 things I think makes the Royal Enfield Himalayan one of my favorite motorcycles. And we'll start with number 5. The way it feels. This motorcycle is really thin. In other words, if you're used to riding a Harley Davidson like I am, or even some of the other motorcycles, it's got a narrow stance, more like a dirt bike. You know, a lot of you ADV guys are going to say, well, it's common. Well, yeah, it is for an ADV style bike, but for me, the thin stance and the way it feels, lightness and things like that, it just really feels good to me. I think it's one of the best feeling bikes that I have in the stable, without a doubt. I mean, I really do love riding my 1200 Sportster. That's a blast bike. I mean, it's super fast, and I really do enjoy it. Another thing I think on the way it feels is its responsiveness, and what I mean by that is, I mean, you're not going to get an instantaneous throttle jump, you know, like you do with a high revving motor. But what I mean, it's nice and easy. It's just smooth and subtle, and it just really feels good as you're riding down the road. And if you need a little bit in the higher RPM, it's got a little bit, but it's a gentle throttle responsiveness, and I think that's really important for particularly a bike that's both good on and off road. But it just makes you feel comfortable. It's not something that, particularly for first-time riders, for new bike owners, it really does give you confidence that you're not going to whiskey throttle, is what we call it, is give you a lot of heavy throttle and you end up you know, doing a wheelie or anything like that. But it just really gives you a sense of confidence, and it's a nice, easy throttle responsiveness. I'll akin it to like a German Shepherd puppy. They're super cute, and it has a little bark and a little bit of bite, and that's about as far as you can go. I think that's a great analogy for the Royal Enfield Himalayan. It's a good little bike, and it gives you a little bit of bite and a little bit of bark. You know, another thing I think is really great about it is its dynamics. The dynamics of the motorcycle, meaning that it gives you a, kind of related to the first thing, the feel of it, but it gives you, you know, good throttle response without breaking the back tire free. You know, if you're on a icy situation, or if you're on or I should say snow covered, icy doesn't really matter, but if you're on a snow covered situation or gravel road, when you crack the throttle, you're not going to get that powerful zing that you get on some of the other motorcycles, which means that the motorcycle's not going to break free. Just the ease of handling, the ease of how it feels when you're riding around, really gives you that, what I mentioned before, a sense of confidence. So the way that the bike is built in a dynamic sense, that it just feels right, particularly for slow speeds in rough terrain. And you know you can add it has sufficient power to do what you need it to do. Again, I mentioned about the ease of feel, and it gives you the confidence to, you know, if you're encountering new terrains, if you're used to riding on the road a lot and not on trails, or, you know, on trails you're going to have a lot more different things to expect. When you're riding on the road, you may have a deer jump out in front of you, you may have some truck drop some gravel on the road, or some, you know, rocks falling on it, something like that. But the reality of it is, in off-road situations, you may have not only everything I said before, but you're not going to be sure of what's going to be around the next bend, because on trails in particular, trees fall down because of heavy winds. I mean, it can happen on the road too, but most of the time the road crews keep the road pretty clear. So basically, you need something that's going to give you the confidence, and the dynamic power of this bike gives you that control of going really slow if you have to, or going intermediately fast. You know, it's not gonna zip you down the highway. We talked about that before at 100 mile an hour. It ain't gonna happen. But if you need to do 55 to 60 miles an hour a lot, which most of the people do, and I'll put the kilometers at the top there for that, which is what, about 100 kilometers an hour. I mean, you're getting what you bargained for. It's a bike that gives you that 55, 60 mile an hour stuff all day long. You know, some of my most popular videos are these top fives. Like I mentioned before, I've done them pretty much all the bikes that I own except for the Dyna, and that's because I really haven't ridden it all that much. Literally test drive, and that's about it. Other than that, it's on the lift getting ready to get worked on, and that's going to happen pretty soon. Yeah, the third thing I love about this bike is its comfortability. I mean, the way that you sit, it's really comfortable. The seat is, you know, it just, I've taken it on long trips of a couple hundred miles, and I really do think it's very comfortable for those long trips. The only downside that I can see is I really would like to have the handlebars just a little bit higher for when I stand up. As I'm sitting down and riding like this, there's no issue with the handlebars. They're really comfortable where they're at. Maybe an inch or two would be most satisfying for me. But the way that she handles in the corners, the way that she performs on the roads, it's just a comfortable motorcycle as far as how you sit in the seat, how you, you know, when you're actually riding on the seat. When you stand up, it's very comfortable as well too. However, I would, like I said, the bar's a little bit higher. But for most cases, when I'm riding on the road, and even on the trails, it's really ergonomically perfect for me. You know, I'm about 6'2", I weigh about 230-ish. Yeah, this winter's made me a little bit heavier than I normally am. But it's very comfortable bike, and those ergonomics, the way I'm sitting up nice and straight, the way my hands fall to the handlebars is pretty daggone good. I can't really complain one way or another about it. Like I said, the only time that I wish the bars were a little higher is when I'm actually standing up, and that's not all the time, except when I'm on the road trails, and even that's not all the time. Yeah, the fourth thing I want to talk about is the torque, and I think that's something I probably mention almost more than anything else, is that low-end torque that this has. Now, I know a lot of guys on the internet are wanting Royal Enfield to put the 650 engine in this, and I really don't want to see that happen. I don't want a higher revving motorcycle. I don't want the added weight. I mentioned in one of the very first videos I did that I thought that if they were going to change the engine, which they don't really need to do, but if they're going to change the engine, make it a 500 or a 525, somewhere in that realm, and maybe add another gear if you have to. I'm really satisfied with the bike the way she sits, because the torque, that sweet spot between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM is perfect. I mean, you've seen me, and I'll put a little bit in the top there by crawling through some of the deer trails. It just effortlessly crawls through the deer trails. Even at an idle speed, I can walk this bike right through there. You know, kind of like duck walk it over a lot of logs and rocks and things of that nature. But that's something that you can really pay attention to, is the fact that it does do extremely well in low torque ranges. And when you get up to the 4 to 5,000 RPM range, it'll cruise there at 60 miles an hour. I mean, no issue, which is what, 100 kilometers an hour, just over or just under. And that really is important. So you've got a bike that'll handle most roads, like I mentioned in the video before about North America, but really worldwide. It's a bike that can handle pretty much any of the roads that you've got. Let's go down this one, matter of fact. A little gravel road to start it off with. But it really will handle pretty much anything that you want to do with it. Like I say, I'm around here on a backcountry road. It's a chip and seal with a gravel base to it, which means it's going to be, well, it just changed to pure gravel. Well, actually, this time of year, it's pretty much all mud. But since it's only 22 degrees this morning, it's, and I'll put the Celsius up there, it's not mud. It's frozen ground. Don't go down. But, yeah, the torque part of it, as far as the low end side and even in the higher RPM realms, you know, a lot of guys say, well, I want more horsepower, and I want to re-emphasize the fact that horsepower usually means high speed or top speed, whereas torque usually means power. And so I want high torque at low RPM is what I want, and this bike does it. I think that is more important to have the higher number on the torque on an off-road style bike than I do on a let's say an on-road bike. Yeah, I like a lot of torque for low-end revving and getting off the line quick and things like that. But as far as me wanting to do highway speeds, I want the horsepower to be up there higher than the torque. Now on this bike, I want the torque higher than the horsepower. Like I say, I really could care less about how fast this thing can go. As long as I'm able to do over 65 miles an hour without straining the engine, I'm cool. I don't care. I don't need to go on the 70, 80 mile an hour highways with this bike. I mean, I'm lucky I have other bikes that can do that with ease. But to be perfectly honest with you, unless I'm going on vacation or a long trip to get to someplace, I'm very seldom going on the super highways anyway, especially on a motorcycle. I would much rather see this than I would see zinging down a straight line highway at really fast speeds. So I think the torque is probably one of the most important things. I rated it as a number 2 place, but in reality it's a lot higher than that. It's probably a tie between that and my next one. And my next one is this bike coming in inexpensively to begin with. And like I say, I think I used to tell people, you know, hey, it would cost this amount of money and wherever you're at. But you know, I think that's changed with the fact that these things are in such high demand anymore, that the price really isn't the same as what it used to be. Nice little curve here with all the cattle. In other words, supply and demand rules, and so you may pay a little bit more than what I've mentioned in the past for a motorcycle, and that's cool. I mean, because this thing is really popular. I mean, it's without a doubt the best-selling small ADV bike in the world, and it's proof is in the pudding. I think I heard a rumor, I can't verify it, I heard a rumor that the thing is sold out for 2021, unless that was just somebody doing some funny stuff on the internet. It's very cheap to maintain as well too. Oil filters are inexpensive, parts are inexpensive. You remember me telling you in an earlier video that a side panel for these things is like 10 bucks in US. That's just crazy, considering that you could pay 120 for a battery cover or a side panel on a Harley. Now, albeit they're metal, but that'll probably change. Like on my Road King, they're plastic. There's no difference really, except for the shape between the side cover on a Road King than a side cover on one of these, except for the shape. They're both plastic. I mean, I'm sure Harley says, well, that's not true, we put a little bit extra cost. They don't put anything more than that into it, to be honest with you. But reality of it is, and again, I'm not bad mouthing Harley because I love Harley, but the reality of it is, this thing is very cheap to operate, and the maintenance costs are low. The fuel economy is fantastic. Like I said, I'm averaging between 65 and 75 miles a gallon on this thing, and that's just outstanding. Particularly, we all know that the gas prices are going to go up worldwide now, and with that said, this bike here is perfect in those high gas price situations. But more on the return on investment, I don't think the resale on these are going to be very high. I don't know. They haven't been around long enough to know that. I do know that I got lucky when I bought this bike because the guy really didn't know what he had. But I'm thinking that hopefully with the demand that the way they are, that the resale value will be a lot higher in the future. And if you look at what other YouTubers like Itchy Boots and Kamikaze has done with their motorcycles and how many miles they've put on them, and they seem to have zero problem, that in its own right will probably tell that it's going to maintain its value, plus of course the supply and demand. So with all these things that we've mentioned, you know, as far as the way it feels to me personally, the return on investment we just mentioned there, which is, I'd say, number one, right there close to it with that high low end torque, and then of course the comfortability and the ease of handling. Those things are hyper important to me, and I think that they'll really give you a benefit of why I love, a benefit of the doubt of, excuse me, they'll give you no benefit of doubt of why I love this motorcycle so much. And those are the top 5 things I do love about it. Battery died. Well, one thing I've noticed on these GoPros, and I guess it's pretty much true with every camera, is cold weather, the batteries do not last hardly at all. I've had to change batteries a couple times, which you've noticed a few breaks there. They really don't like this 20-ish degree temperature. But hey, does anybody really? Well, I really hope you, let me see, what was I talking about? Then we'll go to the exit, the outro. Oh, as far as the engine braking, yeah. In fact, when I came to a stop to change the battery on this icy road here, this icy mud, my tire did break free after I hit the brake, or it's locked up, I should say, after I hit the brake. Now, this bike doesn't have ABS, and that's a proven fact right there. But the engine torque is what got me to almost stop, and that really made the difference. I didn't need to even touch the brakes till I was almost, I mean, I was under 4 miles an hour when I hit the brake. And to be perfectly honest with you, that's when she locked. Like I said, I don't even know if anti-lock brake would have stopped on that. But reality of it is, I mean, I'm riding in the winter. A lot of guys are not. And you do have to be careful, there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues, if you will, riding in the winter, is you never know where the ice is going to be, and you have to be constantly vigilant. You know, stay vigilant. That's really, really important. Well, we're back on this gravel road here that I really like to travel on. Got a little bit more gravel on this side, which makes me happier. I'm not really getting any of that icy swing that we had back in the mud part, which is good. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification button, comment and share. You know, I read all the comments and comment on as many as I possibly can. You know, we're getting more popular. I'm getting a lot of comments, which is great. I love it. And I read every one of them. And if you notice, I try to like and love each one of the comments as well too. I do want to take a second here for you guys that have watching it all the way through. I'm going to give you another opportunity to get another free sticker. So if you see this, and I'll put it in the back there, email me at olmanronin@gmail.com. Give me your address, only this time here, and I'll send you a free Old Man Ronin sticker. See, I do this once in a while. I did it at the beginning when I first got the stickers. We went through several hundred of them, which makes me really, really happy. And we got, I had a few more printed, and so we're adding them as well too. Well, until next time, ride safe and keep her on 2 wheels, baby.